Okay, so this is the overpopulation video. This is either a quick summary for if you weren't here when we explained it the first time, or if you wanted some more information. I'm going to start with kind of the overall generalization of it, and then I'm going to go into more depth on the individual cards that you can read just so you understand what's going on with each of them. Cool. Whenever you're doing a disadvantage, you want to have uniqueness, link, internal link, and an impact. The uniqueness is what's going on right now. And so the uniqueness for this disadvantage is that Trump is preventing immigrants from coming into the country right now, which means that the population isn't growing, and it means that we don't have overpopulation of any sort. Now, the links, so the way that the affirmative that you're reading this against links to this, is that their plan will let in more immigrants, which increases the population right away and also causes a long-term population increase because immigrants will have more kids, and that means that overall the number of people in the US will grow dramatically. And then, their children will have more children, so dramatic increase overall, not just short-term. Then the internal link is that when immigrants come to the United States, they tend to consume like Americans. So Americans use a lot of power in terms of gas or heaters and fast food or whatever else Americans consume. And so immigrants tend to consume like Americans, which means that they'll consume more than they did in their home countries, for example. And consumption will increase as these birth rates go up, which puts a higher stress on the environment. Then the impact is biodiversity. So right now we have like a really large variety of different animals and plants, but if we keep consuming like we're doing right now and we increase our population and more people are consuming like that, then we'll have a lack of biodiversity, which means that maybe some really important plants will die or animals will die. And in terms of the environment, really small changes can have drastic impacts. So if one really small type of algae dies, like a huge portion of fish can die, and that would have a big impact on all of us together. So that impact can lead to extinction because it will escalate global warming and leads to environmental collapse, which causes extinction. So that's kind of the overall real quick summary of what the cards are getting at. Kind of the big ideas to know with that is Americans consume a lot. A plan that lets more immigrants in means a plan that has more people consuming more. And more people consuming more means that our environment's going to really suffer from that. So now for kind of the beginning. So I'm going to go over the 1 and C. This is the first negative speech, so you would probably read this along with some other arguments. And it's just important to kind of understand what this disadvantage is getting at in case the other team kind of asks you some questions. So your first card on here is Trump is shifting restrictions, and this will solve overpopulation now. So right now, Trump is working to not have as many immigrants, and although that's a bad thing on all these other levels, it is good for population numbers, because if there are less people coming into the US, then there are less people giving birth in the US, and there are less people consuming like Americans. So that's what's going on right now. But reducing restrictions on immigration changes this, which will lead to extinction. That's kind of what we explained above. So these are just two really quick, easy cards to read that say that reducing these restrictions will cause extinction. Yeah, sorry. So I think that that's pretty clear. If we're reducing restrictions, that means we're letting more immigrants in, which means population is up, which means the environment goes down. Next, you'll see an overview if you're kind of scrolling down with me. So overviews are a really great way to, in a speech, kind of give the judge an overall summary of what you're going to be saying and some like important things for them to know. So the overview, this particular one talks about impact calc. So we talked a little bit about impact calc. Impact is magnitude, how big something is, time frame, how quickly it'll happen, and probability, how realistic it'll happen. So generally, you're not going to have an impact that has all three of those. But if you do, that's really great. And you want to just try to say that whichever parts of that you have are the most important. So in this overview, it says we control probability in this debate, and which basically says that we're really sure that this is going to happen because global warming is going on right now. We know that it's like going to happen and has the potential to get worse. And magnitude, our other argument is that magnitude is more important than time frame, which basically means that like there will be a point in time in which the magnitude for this and the magnitude will be big and the time frame will be small. It's just a matter of when that point is, but we will reach that point, which is why the magnitude is more important. And also this overview talks about how even in times of war, there's never like the potential for total extinction, because if there's a nuclear war, there will be like small portions of populations that will stay alive, whereas something like global extinction means that all the plants will die, all the animals die, all the humans will definitely die. Then we have a couple overviews versus different specific things, like an overview versus nuclear war. That's if someone's reading nuclear war impacts, this says why this is why the environment is a bigger impact than that. Same thing for gender violence. That's kind of pretty self-explanatory for the 2NC. So the 2AC, which is the second affirmative speech or second affirmative constructive, they're going to read something, like some responses to kind of the whole overpopulation disadvantage. And these are some really good like the overviews are really good responses to kind of the general impact. So you want to always read your impact calc, and then if they have nuclear war as their impact, you want to read the overview card against nuclear war, and you want to read overview stuff against gender violence. It's really important if you're the 2NC to make sure that you're not reading too many cards. So like if you have time, go through and read through some of these and see how quickly you can do it to make sure that you're getting the most important cards in, because you can always like star cards and come back to them if you end up having time. That's not recommended, but like you don't want to spend all of your time on one disadvantage and then not get to whatever else you have to cover in your speech. The next kind of big like downwards arrow, I don't know if you can, here, I'm gonna try to show you how I organize my computer. Unfortunately, I can't just switch this. So like this toolbar, darn, this was a bad idea. Right here, though, if you put 2 fingers down on your mouse, like so on it, you'll get this little pane, and you can do show heading 1. And this means that you're getting kind of the big overviews on things. So I'm gonna click overpopulation disadvantage, and then you can click downwards arrows and it's all organized for you in different responses to things. So that's like a really good way to get a sense of how to organize what you're reading. So on the uniqueness front, we have more cards that say that population growth is low now, birth rate's low now, and if they say that the US is overpopulated right now, there are responses to that. So if you ever see AT, that means answer to. So anything following answer to is what they say, and you're reading the card underneath, which is basically disagreeing with whatever they said. These are really good. Like we have a lot of specific things. So like if they read a uniqueness argument, you can read one of those. And you definitely, like if they don't contest your links, then you don't need to do, like if they don't say birth rates are increasing now, then you don't need to contest that. You can just say the overpopulation 2NC thing, which is that population growth is driven by immigration. Then internal links, if you have time, like reading some of these are really good, just kind of to support your argument more. It's like the first one, overpopulation equals environmental collapse. That's a really solid card to read, like just if you have time. And then the answers to, once again, that's for specific things. In the 2MC, you're totally a-okay to read multiple cards, but like remember that you're kind of critically thinking about their arguments. So really think about whether or not their arguments apply to what you're saying. Then on the impact, the overview impact kind of calc stuff is pretty good for that, but if they have other specific impacts, or if you want to have answers to things that they say about your impacts, that's a really great place to look. Finally, at the bottom, some people might say this argument is racist, so definitely read this. It's under other answers, and like I won't read it for you, but it's saying that it's the most important impact, and ignoring it makes racial inequality worse. So like you can read through some of these files, and like I obviously didn't go through and explain kind of the warrants of each individual card because I'm trying to keep this kind of short. I know it's already at 11 minutes, but if you do want me to go through on any of these cards and really show you what the claim, warrant, and evidence is, I can go through that. If you have any questions on specific cards or just any specific questions in general, you can feel free to email me. My email is Hannah, HANNAH, .s.debate @gmail.com. And I'm generally pretty close to my email, so I can respond to that really easily. I'm a 2A, so I understand 2ACs, 1NCs, 2ARs, and 1NRs really well. I also understand the premise of other speeches, so if you want to talk or you need some help, I'm always available, as well as any of the other people that made these videos or on Slack. They're all really great to talk to. I think I covered the general thing. Margaret Hecht also helped me with this a lot, so her email is on this document, and she's really great to reach out to as well. Just if you have like certain words that you don't understand or certain areas of this that you don't get, feel free to look them up online or contact one of us. All of you will be amazing. This is a really cool argument to read, and I think that you'll all be able to crush with it.